I'm going to spin this wheel containing 20 FPL content creators to find out whose draft I'll be reviewing in today's video. So the first of 5 creators is Sam FPL Tips. So Sam's lined up with a 3-5-2, which in my opinion is the strongest formation to start the season with, especially if you're planning on going with just one premium player. He's gone for Johnston in goal with a 4 million placeholder keeper on the bench. I do like Johnston as a pick, as Palace have got a good opening run of fixtures. My only concern with him is the fact there's a Premier League proven keeper waiting on the sidelines in Guaita, and if he were to start the season as the number 1, then it would be a real pain to have to spend transfers to swap your goalkeepers. The back 3 is fairly strong, with Trent taking up the majority of funds, Estepinian providing great value at 5 million, and Henry probably being one of the most nailed 4.5 million defenders in the game. His bench defenders are Cash at 4.5 million and Bayer at just 4 million, and in my personal opinion, these are the 2 best options at their price points. I'm not a massive fan of having to play a 4.5 million defender every week, but the main reason for that is because a lot of money has gone into his midfield. And just like last season, I think the midfield is going to be where the majority of points will be come the end of the campaign. So in my view, it's paramount to have at least 3, if not 4, 7.5 million plus options in there. This draft has done exactly that, with Rashford, Fernandes and Saka occupying the more expensive spots, while Matoma and Mbemo take up the other 6.5 million places. Absolutely great midfield, love it. And there's only one change from my own current midfield, and that's Fernandes in place of Odegaard. So up front, Sam's gone for Haaland and Jesus, which is the template 2 you'll see in most people's drafts. I personally think Haaland is essential, especially for the first half of the season. As for Jesus, I prefer the Arsenal midfielders, but I can see why plenty of managers have chosen him for a forward spot. All round, I'd give this team an 8 out of 10. Midfield is great, forwards are great. If it was me, I'd find the funds to upgrade the final defender to a 5 million asset, and also maybe consider Pickford or Flecken in place of Johnston. But I do expect Johnston to remain as first choice at Palace, so it's probably okay to go there. Right, so it's time to pick out the next creator's team to review. FPL Flare. So FPL Flare has also decided on going for a 3-5-2, which I like to see, with Ramsdale and a 4 million placeholder taking up the goalkeeper spots. The back 3 includes Estepinian, Shaw and Alexander-Arnold, with Rico Henry and Luton's Bell making the bench. Going for Ramsdale in goal allows you to cover the Arsenal defence, while saving a spot for the likes of Shaw, which is a pretty good route to take, especially if you think Shaw offers more goal threat than any of the Arsenal back line. Trent and Estepinian, of course, they're standard picks. They're probably the 2 best defenders in the game to go with from the start. Similarly to the previous draft, FPL Flare has packed the midfield with quality. Fernandes and Saka, both priced at 8.5 million, allow a lot of flexibility in case another better option were to emerge. Maddison comes in slightly cheaper at 7.5 million, but he could be a fantastic option if he nails down a spot in that Spurs team and becomes their primary set-piece taker. There are a couple of other assets at 7 and 7.5 million in midfield, in the likes of Sterling and Luis Diaz, so there's always the opportunity of a sideways move if one of those players starts to perform. Haaland and Jesus complete the team up front again, and you can't really argue with those picks, and I think they're a good set of forwards to start the season with. Jesus' price point of 8 million also gives you the choice to move him on to a player like Watkins, Wilson, Darwin, Gakpo and Nkunku. So I do like the idea of having a mid-price forward in the side to start off the season. I personally think this draft's fantastic, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. If there's one area of weakness, for me it's the midfield. Of course compromise has to be made, and here it's at the expense of leaving out a Rashford or Odegaard, who I expect to get off to a strong start once the season gets underway. But yeah, a fantastic draft. And on to the next creator we go. Next up we have Let's Talk FPL, and he's gone for a 3-5-2 with Pickford in goal and Areola as the backup keeper. I personally like Pickford to start the season with, purely due to Everton's fixtures, and the fact that he makes plenty of saves and is also good with his distribution, and there's always the opportunity to swap him out on the first wild card as well. The back 3 is very strong. An Arsenal defender with Estepinian and Trent seems like a popular lineup most FPL managers are going for in defence this season, and he's also gone with two 4.5 million defenders on the bench to start with, in Botman and Fofana from Chelsea. In my opinion, I'd probably downgrade one of those to a 4 mil defender and then use the funds to either bring in a 5 mil goalkeeper or just save 0.5 million in the bank. The midfield has a very template look to it, with players like Rashford, Saka, Mitoma and Mbemo. However, there is one differential there in Sterling. If game week 1 gets underway and Sterling is clearly favoured in Chelsea's starting lineup, then I actually think 7 million could be a ridiculous price for him going forwards. This is a guy who returned over 200 FPL points 3 seasons in a row at one point. Finally, the front two of Haaland and Jesus is the standard 2 forwards everyone seems to be opting for. I think for me this is an 8 out of 10 draft. The defence is great, but perhaps there's just a bit too much money spent on the bench. That 0.5 mil saved from the bench could go towards bringing in a player like the Man United goalkeeper, or even upgrading Sterling to a player who we're confident will start in their team's first 11, like Maddison. However, with that being said, this is still a really nice draft in my opinion, so it's time to spin the wheel again and find out whose draft we're reviewing next. And it's FPL Harry. Harry's had some ridiculous ranks over the last few seasons, and to begin with this year, like other fantasy managers, he's opting for a 3-5-2 formation. He's gone for the same goalkeepers as Andy, with Pickford and Areola, who I actually think are probably the 2 best keepers to select if you're going down the budget option in goal to start the season with. The back 3 again includes Trent and Estupinian. However, there's a budget 4.5 million asset in Matty Cash. I can see Harry's planning to rotate Cash and Henry over the first period of the season. Whilst that looks promising in terms of clean sheets, I don't think either player offers much more than that. The midfield is absolutely stacked, with players like Saka, Fernandes and Rashford, and again we see the 2 favoured 6.5 million mids in the game, in Mitoma and Mbemo. I think if you're going down the route of having one premium, this is the type of midfield that's sensible to go for. 5 mids with tons of mid to upper priced assets, because this tends to be the position where the most FPL points are scored across the season. Just like the other creators, Harry's gone with Haaland and Jesus up front, and on the bench he has Areola, Rico Henry, Bell and Archer. This draft is very similar to Andy's, who I just spoke about. However, Harry has gone stronger in the midfield at the expense of his defence. I'm going to give this draft an 8.5 out of 10. Very solid all over, but I just don't like the thought of having to start with Cash or Henry every week across the first game weeks of the season. If 0.5 million could come out of any of those midfielders, or even Jesus up front, to upgrade that one defensive spot, I feel like that would optimise this team. So moving on to our final creator whose draft we're gonna look at, and it's FPL Raptor. Straight away there's something different about this draft, and that's that Ross has gone for a 4-4-2 formation. 8.5 million has been spent on the keepers, with Johnston and Areola. This should be an okay way to go, but I personally think neither keeper is 100% guaranteed to be either team's starting goalie, so that could be a slight risk. The back 4 is Shaw, Estupinian, Gabriel and Trent, which is one of the strongest back lines I've seen from any draft. I think what Ross has done here is seen that there's a lot of decent 5 to 5.5 million options in defence, and he sacrificed a player like Mbemo in the midfield to free up that position. I'll be honest, I don't mind it. The only thing I would say is that if we take last season as a benchmark, midfielders scored higher than defenders, so playing just 4 in midfield with 1 premium could cause you to lose out on points. However, with that being said, all of the defenders here offer a degree of attacking threat as well as clean sheet potential, so I think they're all fantastic options. Ross has completed his draft with a template Haaland and Jesus up top, and then a bench containing Areola, Henry, Ndombele and Archer. All round, I do like this draft. There's a good balance between defence and attack, and each starting 11 player is very strong. I also think it offers decent flexibility to be able to swap out any player in any position with another fairly straightforwardly. I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. Love each of the players that have made it into the starting lineup, but I just have this feeling that 3-5-2 is the strongest formation to go for when going down the route of having just 1 premium in Haaland, and that's because traditionally the midfield is where the highest amount of points are scored. Could that change this season? Quite possibly, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's the video for today. Do you want me to continue spinning the wheel in another one of these videos? Let me know down below in the comment section. And also, make sure to comment your drafts down below, and if I get enough of them, I'll review them in a future video. Thanks as always for watching guys, and I'll see you again soon.